Hey, all my beautiful, amazing women out there, and anyone else that is listening. This is Fuck It, I'm a Woman. I'm Elizabeth Munoz and my co host Katrina, and we are powered by Soul Haven and the Radiant CEO. My company really works with women to help them reclaim their radiance, regulate their nervous systems, and show up to create the lives of abundance in all areas health, wealth, purpose, and love so that they can just live fully and authentically. Katrina, it's up to you now. I hand it
Yeah,
over.
and being your co-host, we're bringing in also within Radiant CEO, we're bringing in the Create Her Method, which is my company. And Create Her Method is really about embodying what it means to be a woman when it comes to business. So rather than pushing through, we look at capacity-based planning. We look at how do you weave your energy into your business in such a way that we prevent burnout, heal the body, and have a lot of fun in the world of business and bring in abundance. So fuck it, I'm a woman. We are powered by two extraordinary women, and we're
And we're
excited to
back to
have our
Fuck It, I'm a
conversation
Woman.
with you
Today's
here today.
conversation, Elizabeth and I have are diving into with you, our listeners today, is around period blood. I know you're thinking, what does that have to do with life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? Maybe even business or making money. Well, here's the reality. If you don't know what's actually happening to your body, it impacts everything else in business. Would you agree, Elizabeth?
Absolutely.
Because you've had some experiences around that, right? Like if you knowing your body, understanding, I mean, when you're out of whack, are you able to do business?
No, you're not. It's like everything feels like it's closing in on you and you just can't understand why. And it's very frustrating and overwhelming. And then, you do the work and you start to realize that you can learn the whys. You just, you got to pay attention. And we've
Yeah.
been so conditioned not to.
Well, yeah, and I think as women, I think we were talking about this in previous episodes. We talked about, the discovery of being a woman and what we've had access to over the last, 30 plus, 40 plus years in terms of access to being a scientist, to being a medical doctor, to having and being in pharmaceuticals and being in these different levels where women are asking questions around what we're being told or the diagnosis that we're getting or the medical help we're getting. And we're like, this doesn't seem to be like working for us anymore.
Right? I went to my doctor, God, so I have four kids
Hmm.
ranging from 22, 14, 8, and 7. I think we talked about this before. But I want to say about 7 was prior to getting pregnant with my daughter. And then there was a lot of things that they were telling me about my uterus being swollen and that my uterus was starting to drop. And then, so that's adenomyosis. I think that's how you say it. But I
Okay.
already was diagnosed with polycystic ovarian syndrome and endometriosis and all of these other female hormonal imbalances. And after I had my daughter, it was really so my whole life I've struggled with alopecia since I was 17. And we'll talk about the period blood thing, but I think this is important to note just because of the struggle. So my hair started falling out when I was 17 years old and it would fall out in patches. And I used to have such full hair that I remember in high school, I shaved the whole back of my head, and my parents never found out because every time I would come home, I would just put my hair down. It was super long and curly, so they never knew.
Mm.
And but it was like a fad, and so I did it. And then I started getting those patches, and girls were so mean to me. I would get made fun of all the time, and bullied and teased, and the sad thing is like that kind of continued into adulthood. And I would have people in my corporate professional environment that would make jokes about my hair loss and about the fact that I wore
Wow.
wigs. And even when I first started dating my husband, there were people that he knew that were really mean and said really horrible things about me. And, create this attachment to your hair as a woman. But, when you, here's, so I'm tying it all back because for one, your hair does not define you. So I want you to know, like, if this is something that you're struggling with, so many women struggle with it. It is nothing to be ashamed of. It is not within your control. But maybe there are some things that you can do that could be in your control, and maybe they could shift it, maybe they could not. And what I ended up finding out was every time I got pregnant, my hair would stop falling out. Every time the pregnancy hormones would leave my body, my hair would start to, wait.
Mm.
Every time I'd get pregnant, my hair would grow back. Then when the pregnancy hormones would leave my body, it would fall out again. So my doctor, the same one that told me about if you don't make time for your wellness, you're going to be forced to make time for your illness. She ended up telling me she did a bunch of work and blood work and found out that I had high testosterone levels. And those testosterone levels were contributing to my hair loss. And that's why
Mm.
when I would get pregnant, my hair would grow back. But then they put me on all these different medications that completely messed up my hormones. And so it was like spironolactone and this and that. And I already had low blood pressure, and spironolactone is a blood pressure medication. So my hair stopped falling out. But then I felt tired and fatigued all the time. And so it's like, when you think about pharmaceuticals, it's picking, what
Oh,
would,
it's a guessing
yeah,
game.
it is.
In the female body, as we're discovering, as we're definitely diving into it more and more, it's a much more complex system
Yeah,
than the male body because we have the ability to create life, like we hold life, right? We're growing it in our bodies, and because of that, our hormonal cycle is different than the males.
yeah,
But it's expensive to test a woman, right? To follow that infradian rhythm, that intelligence cycle that we go through because it isn't the same 24-hour ticking clock. It's a 28-day ongoing shift and change hormonally in our body.
yeah. Just recently I did the saliva test, and to your point, it's not cheap, right? It's expensive. And then on top of that, you got to pay for the holistic practitioner that knows how to read those results.
Yeah.
Then, like I was telling you, I got prescribed a bunch, or not prescribed because they're natural supplements, but still this whole slew of supplements that cost me like 400 bucks. And so, learning your body and learning, to your point, the blood and what that looks like, that could be something that we lean into versus the other things if you're just not in a position to do that. So I would love to hear the research and what you found out because it sounds really fascinating.
Well, and I think it points back to too, you can't go to your doctor and expect them to diagnose you if you don't know what your body's actually doing. So one of the things, there's this book out there called In the Flow, by Elisa Vetti. And one of the things, it was the first time I've actually ever heard this. And I'm guessing since the release of this book over the what, I think it's 5, 6 years now ago, maybe a little bit longer, there's probably been more studying on this one, but she talks about how your period blood can actually help you self-awareness of what maybe is going on hormonally in your body. Everybody right now, and I know there's a lot of stuff going on in the world around peptides and female hormones, and good Lord, it feels like there's just this bombardment of like, we can help you kind of a thing. And I know women are an industry that marketers love to target because they think that we'll spend the money, and we've been conditioned to buy everything for youth and vitality, right? So what's really interesting, she talks about there's like 4 different types of blood coloring that you have during your period, and each one kind of represents. So she says the healthiest blood when you're having your period is what she calls the cranberry juice. I know food related conversations, yes, right? But it's cranberry juice. She goes, its appearance is a bright saturated red, almost like cherry juice or cranberry juice. And it does have like a little bit of a thicker jello mix consistency. It's not too thin, not too thick. Like that's your lining moving out of your body, everything happened. It means that your estrogen and progesterone are actually in balance. So the uterine lining is effectively shedding effectively, and your hormones are functioning optimally. So a cranberry red, little bit of like a jello mix, not too thick, not too thin, actually says you're doing pretty good for your female body.
And is that a phase? Like, is that supposed to happen after the first so many
So
hours?
this is when you're having your period. So this is your period blood. So this kind of tells you how your hormonal health is doing. It's a self-diagnosis almost, right? So
Right, but I'm
becoming
thinking your
aware.
period starts on a certain day, right? And typically, like I've noticed, I'll have like darker blood when it first starts, and then
Mm.
it'll shift into another color. And so that's what I'm just wondering, is it like, does she break
The
down?
first, I don't think she breaks it down specifically because I do know like I'm heavier on the beginning and then lighter towards the end. So I would probably say that first bleed is probably that first day is the most consistent of how the health of your body is going. That would be my understanding because she does talk about how if you trail off or you have a lighter or brownish at the end, maybe you have progesterone is off a little bit. Maybe that's something to look at. So let's kind of continue going through this one because
Perfect.
to your point, you talked about in endometriosis, right? She goes, this is actually, she calls it the frozen blueberry type. It's estrogen dominance. So this is common for those who experience heavy and painful periods. So the appearance of your period blood is dark purple or blue tinged blood, often thick with large clots resembling frozen mashed blueberries. Is her description. It says it means there's an excess of estrogen in your body. High estrogen levels cause the uterus lining to overgrow, leading to a heavier, clottier flow. It's often linked to symptoms of uh, endometriosis, fibroids, and intense PMS.
You know what's really interesting about that is that's what used to happen to me, and it doesn't anymore. And I actually recently, I think we had this conversation maybe a while back where I said, I don't I don't feel like I have those endometriosis symptoms anymore. And yeah, my blood doesn't look like that anymore.
So
But
yeah,
it
so it
did.
just it did.
It did. It did. Yep.
So there is something like your body is literally telling you what's going on, and that's the information you can take to your gynecologist, to your doctor, and it gives a sense of, right? Because our bleeding is related to our health. Like it's a first indicator, but we're not taught to look for it,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Strawberry jam is what she calls the third one. It's low estrogen. So this is seen in very light or short cycles. So this is a very thin, watery, pinkish color, like a diluted strawberry jam or like a thin spread. What it means is you have signs of low estrogen. So without enough estrogen, the uterine lining doesn't thicken properly, resulting in a scanty flow. And this can be caused by vitamin deficiencies, extreme dieting, or adrenal burnout.
Ooh.
That's interesting.
And as again, as you're saying it, I'm thinking about a period where that was happening. And I remember. Very
And
interesting.
my interesting enough as I'm reading through this is like if I had been aware of this growing up as a woman in like my 20s and 30s and into my 40s and 50s, if I had knew about this and could watch that cycle play out, what would I have been more aware of than the self-care for myself, right? So it's like
Yeah.
what would have changed in my diet? How would have changed my exercise, being in sports, things like that. So it's
Yeah.
interesting if we had this information, or for those women that are still going through that through their menstrual cycle to notice this and even to track it just to see if they can improve. Because I honestly think, and you and I talk about this all the time, your mental capacity, your ability to think your way to being healthy is also a big piece of this,
Yeah, it is. Yep.
right?
Yeah. And the life changes that you
You'll
commit to
make.
making.
Yep.
Yep.
So the last one she calls the prune juice, which is low progesterone. Progesterone. There's that word. This often appears as brown staining before or after the main flow. So like if you have like more, so she goes, this is a dark brown, thin or streaky prune juice like, which means the brown blood is oxidized blood that didn't make it out of the last cycle. So it's the first thing. So it's often a sign of low that word, whatever we got, progesterone. Still can't say the damn thing. Which is the hormone that's actually responsible for starting and stopping a period cleanly. So if you have a period that drags on with brown spotting, your progesterone may need a little bit of support. I know, just keep making fun of me in that word. The words are hard sometimes, okay? I stumble over them.
Uh,
So, but yeah, so I think in seeing that, there's like, oh, like maybe oh my gosh. Um,
progesterone.
Thank you might be low because there have been times where I've noticed like a darker streaking before and after my period, like, and I never thought to associate it with that. So again, watching what your body is literally telling you as a woman, men don't experience this.
No.
They don't bleed, right? Not like what we're going through, like in a cycle. So it's interesting is like that awareness, that cognitive piece that if you knew and watched, monitored, checked it, what would you be able to then go to the doctors with or go to a female gynecologist and say, hey, this is what I'm looking at. What can I do? Throughout your lifetime instead of I feel like we're waiting and we hit peri and postmenopausal. Now, like now we're having the conversation.
And that's the thing too, is awareness, right? We don't talk about any of those stages. Like we don't talk about periods when we're young. Then we don't talk about menopause, perimenopause. We don't talk about menopause. Even with pregnancy, like I remember sitting in my doctor's office and having a conversation with a young woman who was pregnant, And she said that no one had talked to her about the potential that something could really go wrong with her pregnancy. So
Mm.
she was just like in la la land and just, oh, everything's going to be amazing and wonderful and great. And then she ended up having these different things that came up and what is it, amniocentesis and she,
Yep.
so then she had all these different, and I've had pretty much, anything that can go wrong for the most part in my pregnancies. And she just said, I wish somebody would have talked to me about those things. Like, I wish my doctor going into the office would have said, hey, by the way, there's a potential that these things can happen, because they painted this perfect picture for her and then it didn't come out that way. And then she ended up super depressed because she was so attached to the idea of how that, pregnancy was going to go. And I
Yeah.
feel like that's the same thing with our bodies. We don't really know. And then we get misdiagnosed. So like
All the time.
I was told that I was perimenopausal and that I had PCOS. And the last doctor that I saw said, I don't think you have or had PCOS. She's like,
Mm.
because if you had PCOS, like it would have been almost impossible for you to get pregnant without getting like in vitro. And she's like, and the fact that you had four children really makes me question that you had PCOS. And
Yeah.
so I'm sitting here like, huh. And so, when we're not told that we need to look at like levels and we need to really understand our bodies and how they work and food, like I said recently, for our listeners and all you women out there, I just want you to know I had a really, really, really rough patch over the last maybe 3 months where it started with a breakout on my chest. Then that breakout moved to my neck and then it went all over my back. And I've never had this happen in my life. Like where I was not even in high school did I have acne on my back. And it
Mm.
was it was the weirdest thing because nothing would treat it. Like no matter what I did, it just wouldn't go away. And I even went and got back facials and did these different things. And then I started feeling that sluggishness and my mood started being really dysregulated. And then again, they're like, oh, perimenopause is kicking in again, yada yada. And so I stopped taking all the supplements that I was taking. And I
Mm.
went in and I sawa hormone doctor. And then she wasn't even the one who actually told me. It was my business coach who said, because he's the founder of WildFit. And so he said, to me, it sounds like what you have going on is your body is reacting to sugar and you're
Mm.
creating this they call it thrush. And your body's creating this overproduction because you're putting too much processed sugar in your body. Now the bacteria that eats that sugar is just
It's
multiplying.
on overdrive.
Yes. And so it's having all these babies basically, and they're eating all the sugar. And now all that they're having all this waste and it's going through your body, and your liver can't get rid of it fast enough.
Yeah.
You start to excrete it through your skin, through your tongue, through your mouth. Like essentially it's like a yeast infection for anyone
Mm.
who's had a yeast infection. And it makes total sense because as a kid, like, or as a young teenager, I had yeast infections all the time, all the time. And so it makes
Interesting.
sense that I have this overproduction of this I'm feeding it way too much because of whatever stress I had going on in my life. And
Yep.
I had told myself, oh, I can't stop eating the sugar. But I was literally saying this to myself out loud every day. So if you're saying it to yourself out loud, what's going to become your reality? As soon as
Yeah.
I said, I can stop and I'm going to stop, guess what? I completely stopped. It's been like 9 days now, 8 days, and all my symptoms are pretty much back to normal. Like my body's regulated again.
I will even say, because we've done a couple of podcasts during this time phase, we've talked even one-on-one, I can see like you're more animated. There's definitely like a healthier
Yeah.
Elizabeth in the world.
Right. And that's in spite of what's going on,
Yeah.
with my 22-year-old and all this other stuff. So yeah, like my body feels good. It feels normal. And it's because I'm giving it what it needs. I'm giving it high
Yeah.
content of protein. I'm giving it natural organic foods. And I took out all the processed crap. And so now I don't have like all this waste. I started visualizing like all these little poops everywhere, just like trying to get out, and like my liver saying I can't get it out, and then it
Yeah.
starts coming out my skin. But it's
Yeah.
just whatever we got to do to get ourselves in a mind frame of, hey, this body is our temple and we really need to honor it. And it starts with awareness, right? So
And it
focusing
does.
on.
And what's interesting, when we talk about the color of the blood during the period, these are indicators, right? It's not a permanent diagnosis that this is the way your body's always going to be, but it is an awareness for you to be like, okay, something is off and you're getting the signal early enough. I think so many times we wait as women because we're not taught to just be aware of those different things, right? When you talk about the yeast infection, if you had known that and how the sugar, I mean, the amount of
Yeah.
processed sugar, and I love this. I'm going to make my 1 minute rant about this. So just time me for this, Elizabeth, because I can go off on this. It pisses me off.
All
When
right.
I
Here we go.
see things that say they're sugar free, that's a big fucking false rumor. Because all they've done is shifted it for a alcohol sugar. It's still sugar and your body cannot process it any differently than refined white sugar. So when you see the marketing BS that says no sugar added, they mean no white freaking refined sugar. But it doesn't exclude every other sugar alcohol that's out there that you're putting into your body and you're not helping it. That's my rant. It just pisses me off because it's a
Yes.
marketing lie.
And
Because there's always something sugary sweet. You cannot drink a soda without some sweetener in it, or you would never drink the crap. So whether it's what is it? If it ends in olos like sucrose or anything ose-wise in there, it is a sugar. It's either an alcohol sugar, a manufactured sugar, and it's not. Your body does not differentiate between white refined and that crap that they're putting in. I don't care how much they want to make you believe that. That is the big false BS. Done.
yeah. 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 It's interesting because that's what Eric talks about a lot is, the food industries have literally brainwashed us on the way that they want us to eat.
Oh
And it's the same as with alcohol and with, all these other things. And yeah, it's up to us to decide and make that choice. And it has to be intentional. That's what I noticed.
yeah.
So it's crazy because I had one conversation with Eric and then instantly it shifted. It just shifted from what I was saying to myself out
Yeah.
loud. Because I was saying to myself, I literally cannot stop binging. I literally cannot stop eating processed sugar. And then it's
You're
like,
just reinforcing the
yes,
hamster wheel of that thought.
exactly.
Yes.
And then as
Yeah.
soon as it was like, I will not eat that crap. I'm only going to put nutritious food in my body. And here's the thing too, like because of our hormones, we have to be extra careful. Like
We do.
we do as women, because anything that we do that is not in alignment can have a dramatic shift on the way that our hormones and the cortisol levels in our body and the amygdala and just everything and how it all works together. And
Yeah.
so, and when one thing is out of whack, the next thing falls out of whack, the next thing falls out of whack. And guess what? It's like when you go, and I'm not saying that
It's
you
like
can't.
whack-a-mole.
Yes. And yes. And it's not that you can't, like, again, I always give the disclaimer of medication. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a prescriber. Like, if you're taking
Yeah.
medications, that is, between you and your medical provider. I just decided they weren't for me. And that's where we're at. And so I'm trying to find other ways. But what I will say is, I started taking, it's called Avositol. And I get it on Amazon. I make sure I get it from a reputable
Reputable.
you rubbed off on me. Reputable source. And I always pay attention to the reviews and how many people have purchased and all of those things. So when you're purchasing things, make sure that you're looking at all that. Don't
Yeah.
purchase the cheapest. Purchase what's, has more than X amount. But I was taking that. And then when I stopped taking everything, well, my hormone doctor, we just did the whole, saliva thing and we went through and we looked at everything. And she's like, start taking that again. Like that is
Mm.
actually this amazing thing for you. And so now I got my mom on it. So just and it really is like that midlife stabilization, or if you have your periods are heavy, like that's somewhere to start. If you're having painful periods, if you're having any of that, start with taking a Velocitol and take 2 scoops, not one. And just same time every day. And see if that shifts the way that your blood looks.
Yeah.
And then from there and how you feel. And the other thing that I told my VA, so my VA yesterday was saying that she was having a lot of pain with her period. And I said, the cheapest thing, and most people have it in their home, rice. I put rice in a sock and I heat it up and then put that on my abdominal
Mm.
area. And now I don't get pain. I don't get painful periods. But
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
and to tie into that too, right? So there's like the homeopathic things. There's a lot of things that we can do as women. Here's the other crazy thing, and I'm just going to throw this out there also because I have met women that are trying to change this conversation. The typical tampon that we have is chemical based tampon. And it was never tested on vagina blood. It was never tested for period blood for absorption. And the chemicals that are in the tampons that we have access to, our women, actually cause us to bleed more because they're in the most absorbent place in our body. So there's been some concerns amongst the younger generations in saying, are tampons really helping us, or are they contributing to a lot of our period issues? Because they've never been tested on the period blood as an absorption, and they were always used as a liquid. So there is this like low rumble of women talking, saying, maybe we should free flow, maybe we should more organic pads, going back to that one, because the question is are these chemicals that we're putting into our bodies also causing the heavier periods, the pain, and all these different things that seem so prevalent, but didn't exist before some of these sanitary products that were designed for women, but they weren't designed for the female body. They weren't designed as our pH shifts and changes. And so the question is does a one size fit all tampon or Tampax that we've been shown really what's best for us, or do we as women need to push back a little bit and say, I want something that actually my body's not going to absorb or have a toxic. I mean, if you've ever read a tampon and the whole toxic syndrome and toxic shock syndrome that you can have by believing that should have been our first indication, honestly, that something was probably wrong with the tampons we were using, but we just wrote it off. It's like, well, that doesn't happen all that often. But I wonder, and don't quote me because I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist, but I do have this wonderful curiosity if some of this has been adding to some of the issues we've been having as women. And I don't know,
Yeah.
but I'd be curious for someone to run with that or ask to be a guest on the show and say, I got the answer for that. Can I be on your show? Because then I would love to have you here to have this conversation.
Yeah, and to that point, I mean, they do sell now all organic brands, and
Yep.
I will say, stop using tampons. I'm
No,
sorry.
I won't either. And I'm actually with
Because
you on
I
this
hate
one.
pads.
Yeah. Well, and we've got the organic ones. Like that's what I use. That's what my business partner like, since we're roommates also, so we kind of, I
Yeah.
need a tampon kind of a thing. And then I visited my parents and I didn't have any, I hadn't purchased any, and so there was some under the counter and there were Playtex tampons, right? And I was like, well,
Oh,
what can this hurt? I will tell you, it was like the most painful experience being using that tampon now that I've switched to a more organic cotton-based tampon. Like that
yeah.
was like my body literally was like, "Oh no, please get this out of you. This isn't healthy for you. I don't like this." Like I could feel that with that and I was like, "Yeah, okay. I need to stay on something that is a little like it is definitely an organic or cotton based as opposed to this synthetic chemical based tampon that's being sold to us because it's cheaper. I get it. Here's the thing, if we women started buying more of the organic and stopped buying the cheap shit, the organic stuff would actually come down. Like there would be a demand for it, like a supply and demand, things would shift.
Yeah. To that point, exactly. I had the same situation now that I'm thinking about it. I told you I didn't get my period for 5 weeks, and it was
Yeah.
because I stopped taking my Ovositol. And as soon as I started taking it again, my hormones regulated and I had a period, and I was like, yes, so happy. But when I started my period, I was in a place where I didn't have any tampons on me because I didn't have my period in 5 weeks. And so I went and the office that I was at had a tampon and it was not an organic tampon. And I used it and I experienced pain.
Yeah.
So, and I was like, this is weird. Why does it hurt? Huh. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
had never noticed that before I started using organics.
Yeah.
So if
So
we
there
pay attention, our bodies will tell us.
they really will, because I felt like my body was literally trying to force it out, like, get it out of me, please. And I was like, what's going on down there? Like, why does it feel uncomfortable? But it was literally my body saying, this is not something that you should have inside. And I wonder, again, you and I have done so much work on understanding and listening to our bodies. How many times we just think that that's normal pain or it's something, just a discomfort. We can just get through it. But literally our body is telling us no. And we just override it mentally because we think we shouldn't be listening to that.
Yeah. Periods shouldn't hurt.
No.
They shouldn't. So if they do, there's something going on that we need to figure out. It
Yep.
is our body literally screaming, help me.
Yes. It literally is. And we've been told that, oh,
It's normal.
yeah,
Just just go home and
and rest.
and rest and suffer and
Yeah.
deal with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I call bullshit. And so with that, we're going to wrap up this episode because I have a feeling it's going to go all over the place. But for our listeners that are out there, we definitely want your comments. We want to know if this episode was an enlightening for you. If you want more episodes like this, Elizabeth and I are listening. We are definitely wanting to, to have this conversation with you. And we know we're talking about stuff because fuck it. I'm a woman. Its podcast is all about being a woman and having conversations that would be considered taboo or as I got labeled in a inappropriate. My favorite. I want to embrace being inappropriate because I talk about what it means to be a woman. How about you, Elizabeth? Do you want to be inappropriate with me from now on?
Absolutely. Let's be inappropriate together, and I will teach my 7-year-old to be completely inappropriate.
Love that. So, for all of our listeners, you know the drill. If you got value from this, share it out. Tell other women about it. Let them know. Make sure you're following us, subscribing to us, and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Love you.